Horses are amazing creatures. They have literally taken us from the past into this day and age. The true nature of a horse is to want to please and to be obedient. And this nature of the horse comes from that wild horse behavior because their survival literally depends on it. Their survival depends on how much are they willing to listen to that lead stallion. And this is why it's so incredibly interesting to see wild horse behavior. And what better way to make people love and understand wild horses than to take them right into their lives as closely as we possibly can. Wild horse family bonds are very strong, and lead stallions are incredibly caring. Here you can see how the white stallion, whose name is Wisdom, makes sure that its latest baby gets across the river safely. And with a flick of his ears, he tells the mare to hurry up. After successfully keeping everybody together, he waits patiently until every last horse has joined the band again. You can see clearly the communication that goes on with how he uses his ears. He is taking them to their resting place for the night. Everybody is in front of him except for the second-in-command stallion. He is allowed to trail the band by about 10 feet, and he knows his place exactly. His name is Valentino, and he is waiting patiently until Wisdom is done marking his territory. Second-in-command stallions hold a very important place within the hierarchy of the band. As soon as a lead stallion becomes too weak or too old, a second-in-command stallion will immediately take over the leadership of the band.
50 million years ago, horses and burros evolved on the North American continent. From the 1500s and on, the Spanish conquistadors also brought horses to the Americas. In the 1800s, a reported 2 million wild horses and burros roamed the American plains. At the turn of the century in northern Arizona alone, an approximate 20,000 were reported. This is about the same number as we have left in the wild today in the entire United States. Sadly, since then, they have been shot, captured, poisoned, and killed by ranchers and our government. In 1908, the Forest Service issued a standing order for every wild horse to be shot on sight. The Salt River wild horses likely survived the shootings and the roundups by hiding in the thick vegetation along the river. In 1971, the same agencies that were decimating the wild horses, the BLM and the Forest Service, were put in charge of their management and protection. The Salt River wild horses live on Forest Service lands. However, they were never assigned a territory. Today, the entire state of Arizona has less than 500 wild horses remaining in their natural habitat.
So even now that we're down to the last 500 of our wild horses in Arizona, even now, these horses seem to not be allowed to just stay in their own environment and live the way they have for hundreds of years. Some government agencies like the Forest Service seem to think that there's too many of them and that they need to be rounded up. And it's a crazy concept. It's crazy to think that they need any interference at all. They've survived here for hundreds of years, and it's a very self-stabilizing population. And these are the last remaining wild horses in any urban area that people can just go get in the river and see.
The Salt River offers the perfect environment for a rich array of rare plant and animal species. Here we see a bald eagle quenching his thirst and watching over the domain that he has shared with the wild horses for centuries. As unique as the Salt River is, visitors say it's the wonder and beauty of wild horses in their natural environment that makes the area so magnificent.
I've been coming to this river now for past 33 years. It's really neat. They feed like moose underwater, and it's really neat watching the mares teach the foals how to do that. And I've got photos of it. That's just really unique. It's just an interesting part of nature, and I'm sure glad that they're here.
It's always interesting to watch them as they feed through the trees and the brush, and they bring kind of a natural beauty to this place that probably wouldn't be here.
The horses were a cool sight. We enjoyed that, seeing them, and
Horses.
We come here every week, every Saturday, and they're here almost every single Saturday, and we see usually 2 or 3 sightings of them. Really enjoy them.
Coming from Michigan, you don't see that very often, you know, so coming to Arizona, that's kind of one of the things that kept me here.
I came all the way from Malibu, where I live, to photograph them, and I had a fantastic time.
Can't think of a logical reason to try to move them.
Horses are out there in the wild, just like skunks or raccoons or anything. That's like saying round up all the wild animals. You know, they're just as wild as they are.
Well, they don't know about you, they don't know about me. What they know is that this is their home and this is where they wanna be. So let them be.
We find Wisdom and his band today, taking a little nap in the afternoon heat. He positions himself on higher ground so that he can oversee the whole band. As soon as a member of the band decides to go wandering off on their own, the lead stallion, who is always on duty, will notice immediately and will start urging the straggler to get back to his mom. This behavior is called snaking, and even the very young ones know exactly what this means. Wisdom pushes the baby patiently and only urges it as much as he needs to. Horse populations are stabilized by mountain lions, bobcats, and coyotes. The survival rate in the first few months of their lives is only at about 60%. Unfortunately, we've seen quite a few babies disappear this summer. Wisdom is only satisfied after he sees the baby return safely to his mom.
Oh my gosh, it's so awesome documenting these guys. You know, normally when we document wild horses, we're like way out in the boonies, acres and acres. We have to have 4x4s and go tracking them, and you know, then you still have no guarantee that you're going to see any wild horses at all. And here people can just get on the river, and it hasn't been a day where I haven't seen horses. It's just amazing. It's an opportunity like nowhere else in America.
Okay, so it came up from the bottom of the river, and it's basically the main diet of the horses. It's probably a pretty good diet. And then over here, part of their diet is also the reeds that grow along the riverbanks.
Over the past 16 years, I have kept meticulous documents and photos and journals documenting the bands, the band sizes, births that I know of, deaths that I know of. If the government is accurate with their 25% growth increase, then the approximate 50 horses that I saw in 1997 would have grown to about 800 horses today. And that's absolutely ridiculous. If there's approximately 110, that would be a lot of horses. This is an incredibly self-stabilizing population.
Good morning. Ready for another beautiful day on the Salt River. So sadly, Gary from the Forest Service informed me last week of 2 horses that got hit on the road. And as you can see, there's all kinds of signs on this road. You know, do not cross when flooded. It's a 45-mile speed limit. But unfortunately, there's not one sign that says horse crossing or careful for horses, and that would actually help a lot. There's only a few spots where horses really like to cross, where there's a big opening and some horse paths, and it would be so easy to put up a flashing light that says horse crossing.
Horses here are very methodical and habitual where they cross. And if we just had a sign up here to warn this car that the horses are crossing, everything would be much safer.
And then a few other signs make the speed limit 35 instead of 45. And that would help a lot, both for the safety of people and for the safety of all wildlife and the wild horses. So we just came across this really old, rusted barbed wire fencing here, and it seems to go all along here to the right and all along to the left for a really long ways, and we're about 20 yards from Bush Highway here. You can hear the traffic behind me, and I just think it's awful. Obviously, this is the cause of what we saw the other day. We filmed this poor horse entangled in barbed wire, and who knows how many horses and wildlife and deer this has happened to. You know, it's an awful, awful death, and there's just no reason for it. You know, horses die of all kinds of natural causes, but this is not a natural death, and a very, very awful one at that. So we just hope that the Forest Service will do something about this and about, you know, garbage in the river, instead of worrying about perfectly natural wild animals that live here and that have a place here and that should live here. Let's spend some time and effort on cleaning this stuff up instead.
This is what the bottom of the river looks like. It takes between 200 and 500 years for an aluminum can to decompose. Every year, more waste is accumulated as the Salt River Tubing Outfit has a permit for allowing thousands of people in tubes on the river. Ironically, when Respect4Horses organization applied for a permit to give educational wild horse tours with only 6 kayaks, the application was denied. There is definitely a place for recreation on the river, but there should also be a place for education and preservation on the river.
My name's Craig Downer. I'm from Western Nevada. I see that they're contributing a lot to the soil, and they're dispersing the seeds of the plants, and they're nowhere near to filling their niche here. These are very important in the life of wild horses. They deposit it as a social marker, as a territorial marker for the bands, and it also adds vital humus to the soil, and many of the seeds that pass through here are still intact and capable of germination, so it provides a nice rich fertilizer bed for all kinds of plants. It's really an honor to be here with Respect for Horses and to help bring sense to the authorities so they can stay here and live their good natural lives.
It is not just our Salt River wild horses that are in peril. It is wild horse herds all over the country. Both the BLM, the Forest Service, and Fish and Wildlife are targeting wild horses for extreme removals. They have removed over 12,000 wild horses this year and stuffed them in filthy holding pens.
Our government is now warehousing over 50,000 wild horses and burros in holding facilities, while we could have less than 25,000 left in the wild. There is no current unbiased count available of how many we truly have left in the wild today.
They're not lands up for sale to the highest bidder. They're not called lands for profit. They're called public lands. These are our public lands. They need to take into consideration what our public thinks. In 1971, when the Wild Horse and Burro Protection Act was passed, it was mandated that both the Forest Service and the BLM assigned wild horses their territories and their herd areas in the areas where they existed at that time, and they did not do so. Therefore now, these wild horses that aren't harming anybody are left without a territory, and the Forest Service can pretty much do whatever they want at any point in time.
They are a federal species as far as the horses. They're not a protected species. They're not a season on them by Game and Fish, so we don't give any resources to them.
How ridiculous to think that the wild horses don't belong here, when they were here long before our ancestors were even here, long before Arizona was even a state, and certainly long before the National Forest Service was established here.
People remembering them from way back when, that the horses were here, the Forest Service made a mistake.
There's no doubt about the fact that the horses were there because I saw them.
Of course there were wild horses on the river in 1971. I'm an eyewitness. I was tubing down the river many times.
At home, I have a 1957 Arizona Highways magazine that has an awesome picture of the wild horses in the exact same spot I go to today to photograph them. There's absolutely unequivocally no doubt that these horses have been here for centuries.
So we're asking the Forest Service, give them their rightful territory. Give them a wild horse preserve where people from all over the area can come and admire wild horses in their natural habitat.
Respect for Horses and ARM Investigations are asking the Forest Service to accept their Salt River Wild Horse Preservation Proposal, which addresses all of the Forest Service's concerns, from poop in the parking lots to horses being hit on the road. The Salt River offers the perfect opportunity for the first real wild horse preserve. The horses have given our documentary makers a window into their existence, allowing them to witness what it means to be wild and free. Everything from communication and migration patterns to feeding habits, playfulness, and even the miracle of birth.
All right, she's foaling right now. And everyone knows what's going on. Everyone is staring.